Welcome back, guys. I hope you are all doing well. So, today's my topic of discussion is about the basal ganglia of the brain. Okay, in previous video, I briefly explained the cortex of the brain. Okay, cerebral cortex. Okay, of all the lobes of the brain: frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, and insular cortex. Okay, and their functional anatomy also, their pathways also, and their clinical importance also. Today's my topic of discussion is basal ganglia, okay, which is present deep in the lobes of the brain, okay, which participate in what type of functions, okay, and its structure. Guys, remember the structures of the basal ganglia, okay, and its functions, okay, all of the stuff I discuss in this video. So now I start the video. I have to draw the coronal section of the brain and show the parts of the basal ganglia and related functions. I have to draw it a little bit big. Okay, this is the coronal section of the brain. Okay, now we have to focus on the basal ganglia. So I have to draw structures and tell you the parts of the basal ganglia. So the first structure I have to draw here. You must compare both sides of the brain, right side and left side of the brain. What is this structure? The first structure. This is caudate nucleus. Okay, what is this structure? This is caudate nucleus, the first part of the basal ganglia. Now the second part, which is just inferior to it and at both sides. What is this part? The second part is putamen. Okay, what's the name of this part? This is putamen. Okay, now let's move to the third structure, which is over here. It consists of two parts. One is inner part and one is outer part. Okay, the same here. One is outer part and one is inner part. What are the name of this structure? This structure is globus pallidus. Okay, what is this structure? This is globus pallidus. It consists of two part, inner part and outer part, internal part or external part. Okay, two parts. Now let's move the other structure. This is your ventricles. Okay, this is just a landmark, ventricles, and lateral to the ventricle there is one more structure, which is the relay center of the brain. Guys, you must remember the relay center of the brain. This is thalamus. I have to draw in green color. This is thalamus. Okay, and just inferior to thalamus here is another structure, which is subthalamus. Okay, which is the subthalamus. I had drawn in parrot color. This is subthalamus. Okay, and one last structure which is present in the brain, midbrain, in the brain stem. Okay, so what are these structure? I have to draw here. compare the both sides. Okay, what is this structure? This is substantia nigra. What is this structure? This is substantia nigra. I have to draw in yellow color. Substantia nigra. So these are all the parts of the basal ganglia. These parts coordinate with each other and perform the function of the basal ganglia. Okay, one more time you must repeat the names of these parts. So what is this part? This is caudate nucleus. Inferior to caudate nucleus, this is putamen. Okay, anterior to putamen, what is this structure? Globus pallidus, internus and externus, two parts. Okay, anterior to it and little bit superior there is a thalamus. Okay, and inferior to thalamus there is subthalamus. Okay, and inferior to it there is, what are the structures? Substantia nigra. This is substantia nigra. These all structure are a part of the basal ganglia, and now I can explain you what are the functions these parts are performed. Okay, so guys, you remember the parts of the brain in previous video? Guys must watch that videos. The parts of the brain, the cortex of the brain. This is the lateral view I have drawn. This is the lateral view. Anterior to central sulcus there is, what is this area? Primary motor cortex. Anterior to primary motor cortex, what is this area? Motor association cortex. And posterior to central sulcus there is primary somatosensory cortex. Guys must remember these areas. Okay, so all the information which is controlled by this area is voluntary control. You have to control on that movement. These are voluntary control. For example, I hold the pen, this is my voluntary movement. Okay, I walk, this is my voluntary movement, because I control the movement. Okay, all the movements are controlled by these three areas: motor area and primary somatosensory area. So now I explain you what are the function of basal ganglia. Basal ganglia communicate with each other. Okay, and uh, they amplify the movement of the body. Okay, they amplify the movement of the body. Okay, the what type of movement of the body? What type of the movement of the body? They help to start the movement. Okay, start the voluntary movement under your body's control. They stop the unwanted movement which the body cannot want to do. Most of the diseases are affected to your body, to your brain, through which your body move unwanted movements. Okay, you like a dancing movement. Okay, but you did not want to that type of movement, but your body move on its own. Okay, so the basal ganglia participate in that pathways. And later on I explain the three pathways related to basal ganglia. There is direct, indirect pathway. Okay, like these pathways which are I discuss in a separate video in detail. Okay, in the future videos. So what are the function of the basal ganglia? They start the movement, they stop the unwanted movement, okay, which body cannot need, and they modulate the movement. Okay, and modify the movement. Okay, the changing in the movement. So all these functions are control under the control of basal ganglia, and basal ganglia control this function through these areas: primary somatosensory area, primary motor cortex, and primary association cortex, which is the motor anterior to the central sulcus. Okay guys, this is all about the basal ganglia. Guys must remember the name of the structures, because in the future video I explain this, not the name of these structures. I have to use some terminologies related to it. Okay, now I tell you the some terminologies related to it. The two to structure comparison. For example, the what is this? This is caudate nucleus and this is putamen. If I compare these two structures and I give the name of this structure, what are the name of this structure if I compare these two structure separately? This is chordate nucleus and this is putamen. Okay, but if I combine these two structure, what are the name, what are the terminology generate? Okay, this is striatum. Okay, the combination of chordate nucleus and putamen is striatum. In the same manner, I have to draw one more. If I compare these two structures, what are these structures? The putamen and the globus pallidus. What is the putamen and the globus pallidus? The putamen and the globus pallidus. If I compare these two structures, so what are the terminology I use for these two structure in combination? This is lentiform nucleus. uh, Whatever anywhere you hear the sound lentiform nucleus, you must remember these two structures. What are these two structures? There is putamen and globus pallidus. If you heard about the striatum, what are the two structure participate in striatum, made the striatum is chordate nucleus and putamen. So these are the terminologies, but the combination of the two structures of the basal ganglia. Okay, and guys, these are all about the basal ganglia. It's the basic structural anatomy, okay, and functional anatomy a little bit, and the new terminologies related to it. In the future video I explain the pathways related to these structures. Okay guys, must watch this video and remember the structures. Okay, in future video I explain the direct indirect pathways, okay, related to its the start movement, the stop movement, and modulate of the movement. Okay, so this is all about basal ganglia. Guys, I hope you understand my video. Please like, share and subscribe and press the bell icon to receive any new video in future. So guys, I hope you understand it. So be happy, take care.